an opportunity to review our 10-Q that was filed with the SEC yesterday or read the press release that we issued this morning. I will let John discuss the specifics on the numbers, but I would like to take a moment and thank our entire team for their hard work, our business partners for their trust in our business and partnership, as well as thank our shareholders for their understanding and continued support. When we embarked on this long road, we knew we would hit some bumps along the way. But now, with 2 quarters of growth in the first half of 2018 compared to last year, 2017, I am encouraged by the results and am focusing on growing the business beyond our initial expectations. I would like to discuss our 3 business operations. Number 1, the funding of medical procedures. The second is providing proprietary technology, our QVH platform, for affiliate doctor groups and non-affiliate doctor groups. And number 3, provide special technology for concussion testing for patients with whiplash injuries. Our goal is to expand all 3 divisions to facilitate growth. As you know, our legacy funding business initially dealt with interventional spine injections. We have now added funding for MRI testing in New Mexico, and we're negotiating now for vestibular rehab services for TBI, both in New Mexico and Texas. Our second area is the Quad Video Halo platform. We have it used with affiliated doctor groups. We have it now with a new non-affiliated doctor groups. As you know, this platform was chosen by PBS on Innovations in Medicine, and it is now being shown on PBS. We're also exploring, have been for some time now, taken the platform to the insurance market for fraud prevention in Medicare and also in health insurance fraud. That is, doctors billing for procedures that they actually haven't done. We're also taking the platform and tying it together with the concussion testing because we're dealing with digital information that we want to use with our chain of custody situation with QVH so that the concussion testing can not only be videotaped, but the digital results can be stored in Box.com. As you know, concussions is a silent disease that all doctors face, and thank heavens for the NFL because it's really brought it to the forefront. And we're also have been, over the last 6 to 8 months, working on using the QVH platform for medical device marketing. The third thing, we talked about the legacy founding, we talked about the QVH platform, but concussion testing for whiplash injuries, or TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, has really come to the forefront. It's really the silent disease. The NFL has brought this, and with this, there's been some special technology that has really been put together that makes sense, that helps doctors like me or Dr. Kronk in the evaluations. Now, with any type of whiplash injury or concussions, there's balance and cognitive rehab that's really required if it's recommended by a doctor. We'll discuss that soon. As you know, Dr. Jeffrey Kronk is a national authority on whiplash injuries and will be very involved with concussion testing. This past Monday, we announced an agreement with an injury relief treatment center for a multi-city implementation of the Quad Video Halo system. This agreement is a subscription-based model. For the past several years, we've identified hospitals, clinics, day surgeries, ASCs, who have really switched to a subscription model versus capital expenditures. We believe this opportunity for a software as a service and hardware as a service model can be used in certain situations in non-affiliated medical groups. We introduced a new pricing model for non-SPIN affiliated clinics in the second quarter of this year, with the fee structure predominantly based on the client's monthly patient volume. This new pricing model provides a comprehensive QBH managed solution of hardware, software, and HIPAA-compliant data management and support services for a per-click and monthly fee. The integration of the QBH system with support services and HIPAA-compliant video data management also enables clinic operations to have the benefit of the QBH system for video procedures without needing video technology resources in-house. We continue to explore new avenues through partnerships with healthcare providers, patients, and we are now looking at the insurance sector that's dealing with fraud. As an orthopedic surgeon, I have treated thousands of whiplash injury patients who have various symptoms: headache, dizziness, vertigo, sleep disruption, nausea, visual changes. My problem was, how do we differentiate whiplash syndromes from TBI or concussions? Thanks to the NFL for the awareness factor, we now have technology that objectively measures brain function via the vestibular system, balance issues, and cognitive changes. These vestibular neurological tests are read and interpreted by a board-certified neurologist. We can objectively say that this patient has sustained a TBI from this accident and initiate appropriate vestibular rehabilitation. Spine Injury Solutions can expand this TBI testing into many cities because many of these TBI patients will also need interventional diagnostic spine injections, especially to the neck area. The people that we're dealing with the concussion testing have been doing this for quite some time, and they have shown in an accident, if the airbags deploy and a vehicle is going more than 16 miles an hour, there's an 80+% chance of a TBI. We'll talk more about this later. So these are some of the things that we're dealing with. I'll now turn the call over to John, who will discuss our financial results for the quarter and 6 months.
Thank you, Bill, and good morning, everyone. I'll now review the results for the second quarter for the period ending June 30th. Revenues for the quarter were $604,700 compared to $426,064 during the same period last year. The increase in revenues was primarily attributed to the addition of our Las Cruces affiliate site in 2018. They started in the first quarter of this year. I'd like to bring to your attention the percentage of a third-party cost of sales compared to the total cost. In the second quarter of 2018, 46.3% of the total cost of sales were from unrelated third parties as compared to 4.8% last year. The main driver of this increase is the Las Cruces affiliate. There was one question that we had in regards to Spin having their own affiliate. It's a function of whether a state will allow the corporate practice of medicine. And in New Mexico, I believe we can, so in Texas you may not. So that is why we don't open our own affiliates. Back to the net profit was $22,619 compared to a net loss of $155,529 for the same period last year. The profit is due to increased sales coupled with lower bad debt expense, payroll costs, and research and development costs. We had $429,000 in collections during the quarter compared to $391,000 for the same period last year. The increase is due to collecting on larger cases and getting higher percentages than in the past year. We were always looking for ways to expedite the settlements at all times. As a rule, the larger the balance, the longer it takes to settle. Finally, with the increased collections, we were able to pay down 35% of our 6% debt to a related party shareholder. In July, we paid another $40,000 on this loan, and we plan on another $50,000, bringing the total to $100,000 when this shareholder renews his loan guarantee at Wells Fargo later on in August. We are looking to gain access to additional funds to gain new markets and further refine our QVH platform sales with marketing and technology and to complete our legal work. Dan Rovish and David Spencer have done a great job in acquiring this non-affiliated contract for QVH services that we just announced on Monday. And with that, I'll turn it back to Bill.
Thank you, John. Before we turn the call over to questions and answer portion of the call, I would like to have Dr. Jeffrey Crunk, our COO, make some comments. Jeff?
Sure. Great, Bill. Thanks for having me. So the comments that I wanted to make was that Bill had asked me to take a look and start to overhaul our marketing program and take a look at our websites and our content. And in doing so, one of the things we ran into was a problem was where we were very monodimensional in the fact that we were looking at one thing, the affiliate market, or offering the provider a unit if they agreed to our funding agreements. There was some difficulty here as the company also was maintaining that it would sell units, so there was some difficulty in trying to develop the marketing platform. We had to solidify what it was that we were doing, and we really had to listen to the market and what the market was saying because we were having difficulty where providers didn't necessarily want to sell or have us purchase their paper. And the ticket price for the equipment itself was large enough that it was a barrier to the sale. So in coming up with a third model, which was basically a pay-per-view model, which is a significant improvement, we essentially now have 3 programs that make it very, very easy and should make it very, very easy for us to expand the technology now into groups, whether we're purchasing paper, whether we're selling the unit outright, or we're having the client actually pay per view. Now, in doing that, since we have that approach and you've seen the release, we've released it now into the market, now we actually have the ability to set up the websites, to set up the marketing material, to communicate what it is that we really do. So this model that was just released in our implementation in our latest press release, we're excited about as it allows us access to markets that would not want to participate in the affiliate funding model, but allows us still to get a profitable placement of our technology. Now, as Bill said, we provide 3 very unique means by which to engage with us as a company, and now we have a platform that is and should provide very solid growth and expansion. Now, of course, the websites and all the marketing material can be built simply to explain and communicate to the market the amount of tremendous value that we can bring to their business. And in the next 3 months or so, these marketing materials, websites, and other marketing materials now can be built that will now reflect that. Now, Bill also asked, and we looked to coordinate on the PBS presentation. This presentation was a way to show the world what the QVH was. We listened to our investors. We listened to what we were being asked, where there was not much about the QVH on the internet. And I agreed that was a problem. Using the QVH technology, we know that we help providers who provide high-risk medical procedures. We know that we allow that to be done in a safer, more effective manner with less medical errors. We help patients to feel more confident with their doctors, which can help them get better results. We help attorneys and insurers involved with any injury claim to resolve the patient's claim faster. And the documentation sets a new standard in objectivity where everyone can now see exactly what's going on and no more need for opinion. As Bill said earlier, this also it helps to ensure or minimize any sort of insurance fraud, which is huge. I mean, that's a huge benefit to the insurer. So everyone in the system wins from this technology. But we had to actually have some way of starting to communicate it. And so we know that we needed to tie it all together and show the world itself, or show the market itself, that there was a better way. In our minds, the best way to do that was to get it featured on TV's longest running medical show, which is PBS's American Health Journal, Innovations in Medicine. And that's exactly what we did. Our technology now airs out to 120 million viewers, and it's been occurring now since July. The real beauty of this program, though, is that that program will sit on a satellite for 12 to 14 months to be replayed, giving us even much more exposure. And by the way, this is not just a business-to-consumer play, as it airs to doctors, hospitals, etc. So it gets our technology more broadly known. But more than that, it allows a pinnacle marketing piece by which we now again can build all of our other marketing materials around. For that reason, this was a very important piece for the future, of the company, and a lot of time went into the project. This, of course, will be used to establish our credibility in our marketing materials and in our marketing procedures. As Bill stated earlier, when you're in the injury market, our technology is beautiful for high-risk medical procedures because it completely videos the procedure. There isn't anything in the market like that. So in a market where everybody's skeptical, was the person really injured? Weren't they injured? The beautiful part about the Quad Video Halo system is no one has to wonder. Everything is videoed from the time of video consent, where the patient consents to the procedure. Everything in that procedure is videoed. In video procedures, or in higher risk medical procedures, the injection itself, or what's called a nerve block, is a diagnostic in an injury to determine whether the injury is actually causing the problem or not. The nerve block itself, not to get too technical, either shuts off the pain or it doesn't. This is all videoed. So there's nothing that can be, a patient cannot just shut off their pain or not. So it's a highly objective procedure. That changes everything, because in the past it was always one doctor's word against another doctor's word. And so with the QVH technology, we take that out, which is the way it should be. But the beauty of this is that in digital media, so this video becomes a piece of digital media. In digital media, there's a thing called the chain of custody. And it's when you're authenticating digital media evidence for use in the courtroom, it's extremely important that a chain of custody must account for the seizure, storage, transfer, and the condition of the evidence. That's technical terms for saying in chain of custody, you have to be able to prove and show that there's no way to alter the video. There's no way to Photoshop the video. There's no way to splice in information into the video. There's no way to change it, take something out. Maybe there was an error that occurred, and that error got removed. In chain of custody for digital evidence, you have to be able to show that there's an unbroken chain of evidence. And the QVH technology provides that. Now, it also provides that because of the way the technology was set up and built, other things can be added to it. So as Bill said earlier, in the concussion area, again, there's nothing better than video. And there's nothing better in video in an examination procedure. And one of the things that we've realized is that this technology, providing the chain of custody technology, marries in well with other technologies, and the emerging technologies in the concussion space are very significant to our forward progress as a company. So I also will be assisting the company with developing marketing materials that explains that and explains how our technology marries into the concussion testing technology. And that being said,
thank you, Jeffrey. Jeff, it's Bill. There'll be questions that will come up that will then explain this, but I want to thank you for your initial points. Last year, when we were discussing the QVH platform, we were in the middle of developing additional sales and marketing programs for QVH. As part of our efforts, we were going to potential customers and getting their feedback and focusing on making sure we were more than just a vendor providing a product. We wanted to be partners with our customers. We wanted the benefits and numerous applications that the platform can provide to be utilized in a manner that benefited all parties. I believe we have come full circle and can now go to market with confidence with several pricing structures that empowers everyone to look at the Quad Video Halo platform as an asset with continued and recurring revenues. Thank you for your interest and time today. Andrew, we're now ready to take questions.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, John, for the financial overview. Thank you also to Jeffrey. Obviously, Jeffrey is a very passionate person, and as a doctor, he understands. So sometimes doctors and medical professionals like to go into detail. But this call now, we're going to turn the call over and allow people to ask their questions. And the questions, as always, could be financial. They could be business-related, Quad Video Halo related, any topic you would like. I'm pleased to announce that we have a number of questions already submitted to us and have been submitted over the last 30 minutes on the webinar. If you would like to ask a question, please feel free to type in your question while you're on the webinar. The first question comes from a Mr. Mike Andrews. His question is directed towards Dr. Donovan, and it is as follows. Why can we not open our own QVH affiliates?
Mike, that's a great question. We can in certain states. It deals with the corporate practice of medicine. In Texas, we cannot. Florida, you can. New Mexico, you can. There's about 20-some states where there is not a prohibition of corporate practice of medicine. We're looking at these states, and we match up which states does not have a problem with corporate practice and what are the other requirements. Do I expect that we will have some corporate-owned centers? Yes. I don't have a time frame, but we've been looking at this for a while. But now that we have additional products, this may change.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. The next question is also directed to Dr. Donovan. Can you give any color regarding the new affiliates announced this week? Number of cities, name of cities, anticipated impact to the top line? Basically, if you can provide us with some of your internal expectations. And that question was also asked by Mr. Mike Andrews.
Mike, that's a good question. Here's one of the problems we've had over the last, ever since we've had QBH, so the last 4 years. There are some doctors that we talk to who are not interested in us financing their procedures. They want to keep the paper, period. So we basically ruled out that whole group of doctors as potential affiliates. We have been, over the last several years, we've talked to hospitals, a lot of doctor groups, and many of these groups are going to a subscription type agreement. We had this opportunity present ourselves. Dan Rogas, David, and John put together a program that we feel will be beneficial for both parties. The paperwork is signed. The people that we're working with have asked us not to give their name or location until they come out with their own marketing program that they're putting together now. And it's going to be very soon. It's a very busy practice in several cities with multiple clinics. And this is what they were looking for and what has been put together on the platform. So at this point, that's all I can say about it, that we are pleased with this, but this is a non-affiliate situation.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. The next question is directed towards John Bergeron, the Chief Financial Officer. You mentioned your desire to raise capital to support growth. If you were to not raise any capital over the next 6 months, would you continue your growth as compared to the previous years? And will that be able to be done from an organic standpoint, or would you have to require some additional growth capital?
In order to grow, we would have to get some investment of capital or debt, or a combination of the two. We could cut back on our expenses, but we would not be able to sustain the growth that we would want.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. There's a follow-up question that is directed towards Dr. Donovan. Has the QVH been ever shown in court?
Yes. We've had the QVH for 4 years. When I developed it, I felt that transparency was critical because I've dealt with video technology for over 40 years with all the arthroscopic surgery. After 4 years, the QVH did go to court 2 weeks ago. And it was very interesting. 12 members of the jury could not take their eyes off the procedure. It was a transforaminal right S1 nerve block performed in a patient 5 foot tall, 205 pounds. Therefore, a large needle, about a 7-inch needle, was inserted, and the patient said, "That's where my pain is." So the jury thoroughly understood exactly what this patient went through, which is the whole intent of the video. It's transparency. What did my patient go through to try to arrive at finding out what's wrong? So the jury received it very well because I was watching the jury as the video was being presented. Everybody in that courtroom knew exactly what that patient underwent. And that's the whole purpose of the video technology.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. The next question is directed towards John Bergeron, the Chief Financial Officer. John, congratulations on 6 good months as compared to last year, like everybody else is talking about. I read the press release, and we see that the company is taking a turn and moving in the right direction. Moving forward from a financial scenario, do you envision selling your invoices or using your balance sheet, leveraging the balance sheet to grow the company, which would then allow you not to raise capital, but basically use what you have already?
No, I don't foresee us doing that in the future. There's just no economics in it.
Thank you. Next question is directed towards Dr. Donovan. This question comes from Bill Ryan. Please indicate which medical journal or journals may a physician pursue now or in the future in order to review the case studies resulting from the clinical use of SPIN's state-of-the-art concussion testing hardware/software to test for concussions, so that he or she might evaluate for themselves as to how the SPIN testing of hardware/software compares with previously existing state-of-the-art methodology to test for concussions.
Dr. Ryan, that's a terrific question. Thank you for asking it. As you know, we doctors, when we're treating patients with whiplash injuries, we have to go through a differential diagnosis. Is it just soft tissue ligament injuries, or are there associated TBI and concussion? As you know, many times it's difficult to separate the two without objective tests because their clinical symptoms are very, very similar. The testing that we're using consists of VNG, balance testing, and cognitive testing. The people who have developed this technology have been using it for the past 5 to 10 years. The person on the VNG testing a company is owned by a physical therapist who's been dealing with head injuries for 25 years. He understood the need of bringing additional testing in to be able to help doctors separate whiplash from TBI. And what we're using is the MedTrack VNG system, and Scott Auerbach has extensive experience in diagnosis plus vestibular rehab. And we're checking all kinds of things. The VNG is checking ocular motor, positional, vestibular ocular, caloric battery. The balance system is doing the balance track. And then the brain check is doing the cognitive, memory, flanker test, Stu test, digital symbol test, digital making test. In other words, we're putting, what Scott has done is put it all together into a system. And what they have found is with airbags deployed, and I mentioned this before, with airbags deployed in over certain miles per hour, the incidence of TBI or concussions is over 80%. It's really significant. Now, VNG's been around for years and years and years. All the rehab hospitals have been using it to evaluate and retest people who've been in comas and so on and so forth. But Scott has been able to put together a package. He's been using it. Our affiliate in New Mexico has been using it for over 6 months. And we feel that we now have the ability to take this technology and match it up with Dr. Cronk, who has thousands of clients that he's given seminars and webinars on whiplash, we feel that we can take this technology, match it up and tie it together with QVH, and really come up with a chain of custody for storage, reproduction, and so forth. So we feel that there's an opportunity here because we're already treating the patients with whiplash. We're now offering our doctors additional technology to help them in the treatment phase and to separate whiplash from TBI.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. The next question is directed towards John Bergeron. Can the affiliate program be something that can be offered to people or businesses as a franchising business?
Okay. You know, I would say it's an interesting question. It's an opportunity, but I think right now we're in the middle of proving the financial benefits for our affiliates. When you get into franchising, the legal requirements are much different. You have to create a uniform franchise offering circular, and that's a lot of money. And right now, we're just trying to put our money into our 3 different markets. But it's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Next question is directed towards Dr. Cronk. What does it take to get an affiliate? What is the work that needs to be done by you or the company or a salesperson in the company to get an affiliate to sign up? Can you please explain the entire process from conception to completion?
Sure. It's a very good question. So what it takes to get an affiliate is, first of all, we have to have a program. We have to have the marketing pieces in place in order to explain exactly what the program is if we're going to get it out in numbers. That's the primary thing that has to occur. Now, is when an affiliate basically comes on board, they take a look at the program, they sign a financial agreement, and installation occurs. It's actually a pretty simple process. So the process of bringing an affiliate on is very simple. The process of explaining the affiliate program, the benefits to the affiliate itself, that has not been that simple of a process. So that's literally all there is to bringing an affiliate on.
Thank you, Dr. Cronk. The next question is directed towards Dr. Donovan from Mark Robbins. Dr. Donovan, regarding the case court where the QVH was used as evidence, could you provide us with the background and reason for the QVH?
Mark, good to hear from you. The whole basis of the QVH was, number one, to make interventional spine procedures safer and better for the patient. Number two was to get the patient engaged in the actual surgical process. Number three is to really engage the doctor doing the procedure, because I know as a doctor, if I'm being videotaped, I'm going to do a better procedure. Number four, I wanted to be able to say to all parties, here is what my patient went through. And I've given many depositions over the years. It's very difficult to describe in words what a transforaminal S1 nerve block is. However, you show the video, everybody knows, doctors, lay people, patients. But the patients get very involved. And what I also have found, we do a written surgical consent, we do a video consent before the procedure. Patients understand that. And what we're seeing is the patients, number one, they've told me this thousands of times. The doctor must be good or he wouldn't be videotaped. Number two, the doctor wouldn't be doing anything he shouldn't be doing if it's videotaped. So for all these reasons, that's why we started videotaping procedures. 2 weeks ago in court, I sat there and said, we've spent 4 long years developing this. It was worth it because the patient and everybody understood exactly what my patient went through. So I feel that the video QVH platform really did what I had initially envisioned that it would do. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. The next question is a follow-up by Mark Robbins, directed towards Dr. Donovan. I understand the difference between TBI and CTE, and I'm wondering if there's any benefit for your technology to be used in diagnosing the latter.
Well, CTE is on repeated concussions. Sure. I'll tell you what's really interesting. I've had some people recently that had a concussion 3 years ago, and it was untreated, undiagnosed, still had symptoms. We did recently, like last week, the battery of tests, and they came back abnormal. So I feel that our concussion testing protocol can tell us, is there an injury to the brain? Is it a central injury? Is it a peripheral injury? Will you use this with CTE? Well, let me tell you, CTE is going to show abnormal findings. I mean, there's no question. So can it be moved into that area? Sure. What we're seeing is these initial closed head injuries with the whiplash. I mean, we've been seeing whiplash forever. Jeff's been talking about it forever, but that's why they call these TBIs, concussions, the silent disease. Nobody was really paying attention to it. And the NFL has brought the attention. Every patient comes in, knows about concussions and stuff. And so when they give their symptoms, and then it's up to us and to provide to our doctors some technology where they can test the people and objectively say, yes, there is a central or peripheral problem, there's a cognitive problem, or there's not. Can it be used in the other stuff? Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. Next question is directed towards Dr. Donovan also. Can you please explain how the QVH would benefit an actual insurance company, and why would the insurance company, or can the insurance company, force lawyers to use the QVH?
I think QVH could be a huge asset to insurance companies. Number one is fraud. Dr. Smith sends in 20 HICVAs, that's the forms you fill out to get paid by Medicare, Medicaid, and the insurance. And all the insurance has to say, fine, send us a video to make sure these 20 procedures were done. Number two, the insurance companies can use it and see a doctor says he did a transforaminal right S1 nerve block, look at the video, and it was a facet block, or it was an ESI, interlaminar ESI. Those are different price procedures. So I think from a fraud standpoint, risk mitigation, they can use it, because let me say that any doctor that's being videotaped is going to do a better procedure. It's going to be more accurate and better. So I think the insurance companies, be it Medicare, Medicaid, your health insurances, any of the liability insurances, absolutely. I think it could be a huge benefit for them.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. The next question is from Art Porcari. It's directed towards Dr. Donovan. Dr. Donovan, can you explain what efforts, if any, the company is currently undertaking to raise debt capital, and in what size? Mr. Porcari, this is Andrew Barwicki. Thank you for the question, but at this time, in accordance with Regulation FD and capital raising rules and negotiating debt, Spine Injury Solutions, much like any other company, can't comment on things that may or may not occur. As John Bergeron did note and mention, they are always looking for capital, and capital would grow the company. But with respect to exact amounts, debt or equity or anything of that nature, it would be pure speculation on our behalf, and it's something that's not allowed at this stage. So I do thank you for the question, and my apologies that we can't answer it, but it comes from a legal perspective. Next question is directed towards Dr. Cronk. It is from Arthur Picari also. Dr. Cronk, I remember Dr. Cronk giving a seminar where he explained how a whiplash can happen even at speeds below 5 miles per hour, well below the 16 miles per hour Dr. Donovan mentioned for TBI. Can he address this now?
Sure. So that's a fairly simple question. Yes, whiplash injuries, which whiplash is a generic term for physical bodily injury that can occur when a person's in a, say, auto collision, can occur at low speeds. Not all low-speed injuries or not all low-speed collisions cause injury, and not all high-speed injuries cause injury. The patient is only injured if the tissue itself, some body tissue, is damaged. And it's very easy to see in a low impact, there's so many different factors in a low impact injury that matter. It's kind of difficult on a call like this to explain all the factors, but I guess the easiest way to say it is if a car were embedded in cement and the person were hit at low impact, the damage would go just to the car. It wouldn't go into a human body at all. But if the car were on ice and the car were hit at low impact, there's quite a acceleration that occurs in the car that's being hit. And even at low speeds, those accelerations and G-forces can produce serious bodily injury. So in low-speed injuries, patients can be definitely damaged, and that's why testing and objective testing is so important, because that's how you differentiate if a person is injured or not. So, yes, they can be.
Jeff, this is Bill. I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't want the investors to be misled. I did not mean that it required 16 miles an hour to cause a whiplash. What that study, this group did, it dealt with a group of patients, airbags deployed, speed such and such. Here is what their results is. Now, of interest, last week in Houston, there was a big seminar on truck accidents, and one dealt with airbags being deployed, and it was dealing with concussions. The person who gave this was relating to the Iraq injuries, the war injuries, where all the explosions cause concussions. What this researcher thinks, when the airbags are deployed, there's a incidence of blast exposure from the airbags. So the airbags thing may be several issues. And I think this blast component is something that's fascinating. And we're going to hear more about this. No one's ever mentioned about the blast component with airbags. But Jeff, you're absolutely right. You can get whiplash all the time from low-speed accidents. I've seen it in practice.
Thank you, Dr. Cronk.
Absolutely.
Donovan. Next, the following question, just to everybody's notation. If you do have a question, please type it into the webinar. We do have one question currently in the queue, which I'm happy to ask. Question is directed towards Dr. Donovan. Dr. Donovan, would it be worth the company, as part of its sales and marketing campaign, to attend conferences? Would it be legal conferences or medical conferences? And are you currently doing that, or do you plan on doing that?
We've done some in the past. we will be doing some in the future, and I've been approached by the experts, especially in concussion. How do we use this technology across the spectrum of conferences? And I think by using the chain of custody, we link it all in with the QVH platform.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. At this time, we have no further questions. Call over to Dr. Donovan for his closing statement.
Thank you for joining us today's call. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Otherwise, we look forward to speaking with you again next quarter. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our call. You may now disconnect.
Let me tell you.